Do you mind muting yours? There we go. Well, I'm going to give an official welcome because we're recording this. And so it's for you all and for beyond us here, for folks who registered and couldn't make it or friends you want to share this with. My name's NikiAnne, and I'm one of the facilitators of the Remembering Retreat, which is happening in just 2.5 weeks away, on October 23rd to the 26th. And I just want to give an overview, some of which, you can find on the website and some of which is maybe hard to get from a flat screen. But it's just a chance for you also to get to know me. And if Chloe is able to join today, she'll jump on. She's one of the facilitators, and Myrna is also one. And yeah, we've been doing this together for 4 years. And last year was the weekend of the hurricane, so we didn't actually get to experience the retreat as we had intended last year. So it's really exciting to come together this year. And yeah, so just I'm going to give an overview of what I call the bones, kind of the structural pieces, but also try to speak to the essence, which, we really try to convey on the website, and it's just hard. And yeah, and really speak to how this experience can relate to people's longings for community and getting to know Earthaven as well. And there'll be time for questions. And yeah, let's jump in. So yeah, as I said, it's a 4-day retreat. We come together on Thursday afternoon, and then we're together until Sunday at lunchtime. So 2 full days with Friday and Saturday. And we're going to be just after the new moon here in October. And it's just really exciting because we're going to be deep in the outskirts of Earthaven. We're in a neighborhood called Dancing Shiva. It's a Tantra monastic neighborhood, and they open up their home for aligned retreats or experiences that just are a good fit for that neighborhood. So we're nestled in this wooden yurt up in the woods, near a ridge, and just it's one of the more established neighborhoods at Earthaven. So the big trees are still around and developed gardens, and just really kind of feel that sense of sanctuary. And we'll be with the leaves turning colors, and really getting that medicine that the seasons give us for our own renewal and time of shedding for the seeds of the seasons to come. So really working with what isn't serving us anymore, what is creating drag in our lives that's keeping us back from fully stepping into the life we want to be living. And yeah, so one way to say that is it's really a time that we're giving to come home to ourselves, to really take that seat of belonging, not only in our lives, but the greater world. And doing that through the gate, one of the gates we go through is grief. We hold space for those unwelcomed feelings or parts of ourselves, whether that's not welcome by ourselves or we've internalized those messages from the greater world, that it's not appropriate to speak to our rage, our anger, our grief, our sadness, our sorrow, our sense of displacement, lostness, isolation. I mean, the list can go on and on and on. But really, I say that because when I say on and on, it's people could be coming through any tributary of a place of stagnation or stuckness. We don't have to be in unity around that. And there's a lot of freedom within our container to self-facilitate what you're needing amidst the group experience. So everything's an invitation. We're really holding the space to really meet people wherever they are, and yet give form, hold the space and give invitations for that guidance. So one can be held, kind of drop the clock time, not needing to pay attention of when the food's coming or if food's coming. It's really with all that being held, that nourishment that comes when we slow down and when we practice trusting And I say practice because everything we're doing there is a practice. And it's really this pathway to get out of those judgments of I don't do this, or I do this, or I am this, or I'm not this. Really trying to make space for that evolution and that mobility within oneself, without getting too attached to our stories. Um, yeah, and just that belief, at least, again, I'll speak from my belief and you don't have to subscribe to it. Again, the whole thing is take what works for you and leave what doesn't. But in that belief that when we do connect with those parts of ourselves that are not normally welcome, or that we're not listening to, we're not giving attention to, it's the idea that we ignite with more authenticity and meaning and pleasure to those external connections. Yeah, so really hoping for this renewed sense of this authentic self. And so it's not going into the grief for grief's sake, for, experiencing that for its own sake, although that's valuable, but it's also to like give the pathway forward so we're fully living into the lives we want, whether that's of service or simply with reciprocity with the greater world. Yeah, so that's some mixture of kind of the essence and why we're coming together and the what. I want to honor that we're walking in the lineage of our own selves, our own people. So I'm NikiAnne. I'm walking with the lineage of NikiAnne and all my ancestors, but also the teachers that have come um, into my life. And then so I've had the deep, deep, deep pleasure of studying with Sobonfu Somé before she passed. So really, that influence of the Dagara people is a part of what I'm bringing and get to play with and still study from that place of her ancestorhood. And Martin Prechtel is another big teacher of Chloe's and Myrna's and mine. He's was an initiate of the Sutuhil Mayans. Joanna Macy's a big influence on our lives. Francis Weller, Lawrence Cole. Those are some living folks who are holding grief tending work in community. And then all this is on for me, as a resident and member of Earthaven, walking through that lineage of intentional community and through the built experiences that I've had within the Earthaven context. So even though this retreat is not like head on Earthaven focus, like we're not going to be talking about the governance system, X, Y, or Z, the history. It's a way to experience Earthaven in a embodied way that's kind of coming at it from the side. So we talk about courtship a lot in this experience. When when we're courting something, whether that's a beloved or a teaching or the access to our soul's callings, it's usually not so direct and head on, like I want you in this accusation or acquisitional way. It's what a lot of us have found, and like probably how Rumi speaks to it and many other poets, is it's like studying something, learning what they love, and then getting into a relationship with that. And so if it's community or if it's a sense of belonging, or getting to know oneself more, experiencing this experiment here. Yeah, this is a great chance to do it in that soft, like inquisitive, experimental way that's again a little from the side, like looking at it from the side. And I say that because there are Earthaven members who are attending this retreat, and there have been every year. And it's a really cool mix. It's the highest percentage of Earthaven members to people living elsewhere in one of our soil experiences. And so it's really a rich landscape for feeling into who are the people, which is kind of an inverse relationship to a lot of times that people come here looking for Earthaven at Earthaven. The members themselves are often not as accessible except in these programs, whether they're through being instructors, and in this case, participants, co-attendees, as well as facilitators. Yeah, I just want to take a breath. I can get in my own fast-pacedness. Yeah, I think I want to just speak to a little bit of who has shown up in the past in this retreat. Um, and who I'm feeling like is showing up for this time, even though registration isn't closed. Um, Historically, we've had folks all the way from their 20s to their 80s, so very intergenerational for this retreat. It's historically been about 3/4 women, 1/4 men. Um, the flow of the day is starting at 8 a.m. ish, 8 a.m. ish for breakfast. And then we go until about 9, 9:30, depending on the activity or evening, with some spacious meal time for the breakfast, lunch, and dinner, as well as even some independent integration time after the afternoon session. So there's a morning session and an afternoon session between the meals, and then we'll have something around the fire or in the council hall or the yoga stan. That's not heady at night, really just being with the integration and the spirit that's moving through us. There's 9 nourishing meals made by Rachel. She's one of our culinary divas here in the village, with a lot of storied food, food from the land, food from the region, um, and just blessed food from wherever it comes from. And yeah, it's one of the highlights for me, for sure. And as far as lodging, which some people are really curious about, we are doing our best to nestle us up in Dancing Shiva so that the commute from the lodging to the central gathering hearth, isn't long. And if people are staying elsewhere in the village, because we're full at Dancing Shiva, then you would be walking with other members of the village who are coming from their respective neighborhoods, or you can drive if you need as well. Um, yeah, there's indoor lodging that's private as well as shared, and then there's camping if you want to bring a tent. And I think I'll just leave it at that for a second and see what questions are in the field. Thanks for hearing that much of an introduction. Yeah, so feel free to unmute yourselves, and yeah, just share what's alive for you.
Yes, hi. I'm definitely concerned about the lodging.
Hmm.
So is everything already booked? And I know you said it's not, but I think I would want a private room.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't think private rooms are completely taken up.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And so a private room in that neighborhood usually looks like there's two kind of options. One is in like those shipping containers that are divided into bedrooms, so just a room, and then you would walk outside to a composting toilet or shower, and then the other, and those are little they have the pro of having not shared spaces with others. Like it's private, but it's also not within a house. Whereas one of the buildings in that neighborhood, the ashram, one could have a private room in that house, and then they have an indoor commute to the shower and the composting toilet. So you're a little closer in proximity to others, but you have the option of not traveling outside for using the facilities. So
Yes, I
you
don't see
can
myself traveling outside, Nikki.
say that
I
again,
don't
please.
see myself traveling outside. I've never been camping in my life, so I'm like, nah, I can't do that. I'd be with the other people.
Yeah, well, you're not the first, and we do our best to really support you in it being a positive experience. And it's a beautiful, beautiful space. So it would be stairs from the bedrooms in the house down to the bathroom, just to be clear, for even that indoor lodging. Yeah. And it's also fine to get an Airbnb down the road and, get in your car and travel the however long it is. Hopefully it's not more than like 20, 25 minutes. Just because it is curvy mountain roads, and also you're just, it's like just so nice to not get in a car if you don't have to from Thursday to Sunday. But people have. Yeah. Yeah. I know, we're not like a Holiday Inn Marriott turnkey venue. And, you know, the the joy of that is that it's got so much character and personality, and just beauty embedded in the scene here. And the maybe the downside for someone is it's just not what they're used to, and it's not as easy as it tends to be in any city center. So, yep.
So I have a question. I've done a decent amount of camping in Pisgah, which I know is a rainforest. And
Mhm.
I'm just wondering about like this time of year, what's the weather like and what happens if and when it does rain? I'm sort of lodging wise considering, do I want to camp or do I want to do something different? But then also just thinking about how that would impact our daily activities.
Yeah, for the daily activities, there's moments in which we have choice points between rain backup locations and activities. And there may be times where, if it's not like torrential downpour, we're all getting in some rain gear and we're being a little more adventurous and really being with that relationship of the elements in our environment through the seasons. Um, and it's not like a hike we go on or anything. It's just like meandering in the neighborhood.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it's hard for me to speak to the what would be the sweet spot for your comfort level on the camping, because we all
Of
have different
course.
thresholds. But
Yeah.
theoretically, we're past the hurricane season when we're in late October.
Okay.
So I wouldn't anticipate as much rain as we would before right now. I mean, kind of the first weekend of October, second weekend of October is kind of usually that cutoff for this region. And yeah, the gathering space has a wood stove in it, so we can keep ourselves warm. We can dry ourselves out when we're indoors, and we have a chance to eat indoors and eat outdoors when it's nice. So there's some flex and choice points.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, good. Mhm. Any other questions that would really help your process, help you get off the fence? And I also, if that's not where you are and you're like, just have some other questions that are more about Earthaven or the content, I'm happy to answer those too.
Um, so what about, this is a maybe an outside the box question. What about Wi-Fi or cell towers or anything like that around you guys? I'm pretty sensitive to electromagnetic fields,
Great
and I just
question. Yeah.
wondered like how you guys are set up there with Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Um, well, interestingly, and to meet your needs, the village center is Wi-Fi free. So anytime anyone would use um, the internet, it would be plugged in. So that takes care of that. And that's actually true for this neighborhood of Dancing Shiva as well. So there's no Wi-Fi in that neighborhood and everything's plugged in, if it's being used for connection.
Wow, that's amazing. That's
I know.
amazing. Like that's incredible. That's like unheard of. That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's not true in my neighborhood. Our neighborhood has a lot of Wi-Fi going on. So it depends on the neighborhood. Um, and again,
Yeah,
the village center is that's a community agreement.
thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. Great question. Yeah, I want to, Debbie put in the chat that there's an option for an Earthaven tour. So we start the program in the afternoon. I mean, arrival would start at 1 p.m. For the retreat, but we have scheduled a special 11 to 1 o'clock Earthaven tour, knowing that a lot of you are coming with this interest in Earthaven and haven't had a tour yet. And so then that's like the chance to really have the like full focus on Earthaven experience before we drop into the retreat. And so, that's an option. Also with your registration, you'd get a virtual tour. So if that's what you could accommodate in your schedule, then that's available. So we're really trying to like help you understand what's going on here and have some context. knowing that a lot of people do utilize this experience as well as like Compassion Camp, and other programs that aren't Earthaven centered to still get a taste of what's going on here while it's not directly focused on Earthaven. We've answered all your
I am curious about, and when I was in Asheville a few months ago, I tried to get a tour, but it was a bad weekend. You guys weren't giving tours that weekend. So I am really curious about the community and intentional communities in general, but you guys in particular, because you seem to have really, at least from the outside, really taken the idea of intentional communities and worked it, and are doing very well with it. Wonder if you could speak at all to like what it's like to live there. Like, you know, how do you deal with conflict when it comes up? Do you have is there other structures for how you live together, like, you know, in terms of schedules and how people do certain things in the community? So I don't know if there's anything you could say about that.
Yeah, I'm happy to share from my perspective. And, you know, we also have Debbie on this call. And Debbie, I'm not sure if you're interested in chiming in as well for your experience, just to round it out, but no pressure. Yeah, Debbie and I work together for the School of Integrated Living. And so she's here supporting me with technical support. And so you just may get more voices than one right now.
Right.
So yeah, I'll say for me, I came as a work exchanger 18 years ago, only for 3 months, and I wasn't looking for like in the ways in which you all may be like, I'm interested in community and I'm curious about Earthaven. Like that was not my orientation. I was like, well, I just want to do something in my body, someplace beautiful, and I don't want to pay money. I don't need to make money. And so I wasn't really paying attention to what was going on here, in that experience. But there was a lot of conflict at the time, and so I said, well, this was a great experience. It rocked my world. It opened it up so much of what's possible in life, but I'm going to go look at other places who do it better. And I was like, I was in my 20s, you know, like just thinking that there was some perfect thing out there. And interestingly enough, I kept in my stories kept saying, Earthaven does this, Earthaven does this. Oh, I remember this. I really learned this. And I was like, wow, it really gave me so much. Life lessons that I was pulling off of. And so that made me turn around and face Earthaven again. And then I moved back here 13 years ago. And part of that clarity of moving back here was, oh my gosh, the people that I was seeing living there, that I was like studying or interested in, they were showing me staying power. They were showing me that even amidst a lot of painful conflict, that they were still living together, still going to potlucks together, still self-governing together, still, you know, doing potentially really head on going into conflict resolution processes. And that was revolutionary for me, for my, you know, modern privileged American young self who had the privilege of mobility. I could go anywhere, any place, like just, oh, that's bad, I'll just move over here. And so to really watch people reap the rewards of being in the refiner's fire, like being cooked into more maturity, more capacity, was so beautiful to me. And so like it had my medicine for the antidote for that, the shadow side of being able to move anywhere you want, a lot of people. And so I've signed myself up for this lifelong PhD program in how to be human with other humans connected to a place. And it has, like, the curriculum is clearly lifelong. Like it is, I'm so, I think one of the experiences we get here in this experience at Earthaven, for example, and that may exist in other intentional communities, is there's bounds to our experiences, meaning there's a membership process, there's a physical property boundary. So the community, yes, there's a layer of community that's like amorphous and beyond the technical Earthaven boundaries. Um, and they, there's a sense of belonging and connection and community with folks, in the greater region. But there's also this really unique experience that because it has that containment and form and structures through guilds and neighborhoods and processes and, you know, journeys within a membership process, it gives it's just more training wheels for life. It's like scaffolding for becoming the village. So, I want to acknowledge that an intentional community is a structure, whereas a village is like a living organism that all of our ancestors came from, that didn't have that. It had cultural and traditional aspects and qualities and elements, but it didn't have this like inorganic form like this does. And so it just feels like it's a stepping stone towards re-villaging. Anyway, that's a lot of words for to paint that picture, but that's what I'd say about that. And I know I didn't address totally conflict head on with that, but I want to let Debbie chime in to see if there's anything she wants to add or share about her experience.
Yeah, I have a different view of this, not contradictory, but saw it from a different perspective, in that I came kind of between, I think, when NikiAnne's first work exchange and then when she came back for real. And that was during it was just like 2 or 3 weeks before what ended up being a really epic um, conflict situation here. No, well, probably was right after that, but right before they started processing, which was kind of the um what was it, the request and demands document or whatever, the
Threats and
threats
demands.
and demands document, well documented now. So kind of through that, it was impressive. And then within a year, I moved to the neighborhood where I am now, and we had even bigger kind of personalities with conflicts and kind of stuff. And so we started on a journey with nonviolent communication, and I ended up really getting into that, and with Steve Torma, who now teaches that. And so, um, yeah, so there's kind of that lens, and then Diana Leaf Christian teaches the conflict and community, working effectively with community conflict class now, and as I work with the online program, so I have now sat through that 3 or 4 times in terms of and so she has it divided out into 3 different types of conflict. There's just interpersonal stuff, and then there's the structural conflict, and then there's what she calls people with difficult behaviors or something like that. And then you can see in any kind of a big situation, like what is going on. So then it makes it easier to resolve, I think, and to deal with. So I'm not being at all coherent about this. So since then, a lot of people at Earthaven have gained experience with nonviolent communication, and it's a pretty well established way to communicate. And even people who, are very against it end up, kind of following that because they get more of their needs met if they, uh, you know, speak that way or so. And there's still conflict of all kinds in between all people, and there's still people who are really talented at mediating that and helping with that, and there's some people who choose not to continue living here because it's just too big of a growth opportunity for them.
Mm-hmm.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, great question. Yeah, it's at the heart of the experiment in a lot of ways because it's wherever there's humans, there's conflict. And
Mhm.
most of us come from um, individualistic conditioning versus collective. And so we're perpetually centering the I, which, you know, it's even in a lot of progressive like personal growth work is use I statements, which is, you know, beautiful. I get that. But what happens is it tends to solidify the I orientation, like the narcissist in each of us. And so, you know, how do we honor the I, but really orient towards the we and the you?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And part of where my question came from, and by the way, I'm coming on video. I'm back at my house and I'm coming on video now.
Recording in progress.
Why don't you drop one of them so you don't get a, there you go. No, you got to unmute yourself on your computer. There you go. Okay.
I was on I went on a retreat with a group of friends. And these are all people I know and love for like a week. And we were all in the same house. And I just noticed for me, the issue of like the balance of like who was doing what in the house, right? Because like dishes were left in the sink and cups were out. And, you know, not everybody, the balance of like cleanup was like not there. And some people were doing more than others. And so the question for me arose, if I lived in community, like how would we address that? And it was an egoic issue for me also because the I of like how much am I doing and is it fair for me? So I'm owning that ego piece of it. But I just know that's kind of where my question came from, just so you know, was because I was just living that this past week.
I mean, it's a fair question and it's a common one. I mean, it's like so many folks, all of us have had conflict in our communities, starting with our family of origin. You know, it's like things come up and how well did we resolve it? And then we have maybe roommates. And then, so this experiment is just like, you know, roommates on exaggerated, lots of roommates, lots of in-laws. And we're all coming with our suitcase full of baggage. Like, who doesn't? And so I think one of the things that not this, I mean, yes, this place and this experience, but literally the people who I gravitate towards or that I'm surrounded by with here are growing me up because many of them have been here a decade plus before I came. And so I'm like for me, that's just, they've grown up in community for that much longer, I'll say. And so that built skill of compassion and humility baked into so many of their daily habits has really been helpful to be modeled. And
allowance. There's a lot of allowance, I would imagine.
Yeah, tolerance, allowance. It's like in community forums, listening longer than talking, observing. And, you know, one thing that's maybe not clear for folks who haven't been to Earthaven or other places, but there's these nested autonomy, nested jurisdictions. So we have, you know, our household scale, our neighborhood scale, the community scale. And so not everything lives in all the commons, not all the decisions, not all the conversations, because that would just be, for me at least, be too much large group process and decision fatigue. And so we have small guilds and committees that governance happens on as well, even with the commons. So all that structure really affords just more grace, more time for folks to focus on what they have capacity for and where their interests are, and reserve, you know, that stretch for just however much is like not their passion or their interest, but it's just essential to live in community. So trying to balance that.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Yeah, Debbie put a link into Diana's class. That's one of them she does.
I have a quick question. Last year, around in September, I drove to North Carolina and I got stuck in that big hurricane. That one that came through knocked out I-40 and all that stuff like that. Really, really scary. How do you guys manage in a situation like that, a disaster situation, been hit by one? What happens? Can you just elaborate on that a little bit?
Whew, big one. Good question. Debbie, you want to start this one off? You want me to?
Oh, you can.
Um, well, I think you're referring to Hurricane Helene, which was the one that was in September of last year. God, I mean, I think your question's so great and so vast, and I'll just like scratch the surface in some areas on it. But I would say that one of the experiences, well, the experience we had with many others, including you maybe, is we had the chaos and the scramble and the disorientation and the grief and the confusion and the, all that as well. So all the humanity showed its parts. And I would say that we probably were one of those pockets of people, those groups of people that sprung into action maybe more swiftly and expediently than others because we're practicing it on the daily with just seemingly less essential circumstances. So back to that concept of practice that I spoke to regarding the retreat, it showed up with the hurricane. It showed up proving that why we do practice is so that we're better at what needs to be done when it counts. And so that was coming together in small groups and large groups and knowing how to speak to the heart of the matter efficiently. And again, this is all like with a lot of room for growth and a lot of errors and a lot of humanity and a lot of fumbles. Like it's not like it's perfect, but just to speak to like this, my celebrations of it. Yeah, so the coming together and knowing how to speak and listen in a large group was huge. Having established communication pathways like group lists and phone trees also helped with that. Having a lot of people with equipment accessible. So we have, the tractors, the excavators, the chainsaws, and people who know how to use them. So there was a lot of sufficiency, like I'll say self-sufficiency, but it was really interdependence with each other, but also our neighbors. Yeah, those are some things that come to mind. Debbie, you want to add?
One thing that's was a big help long before, like 32 years ago, was that when the founders were looking for this land, they looked for creeks and they had a permaculture plan. And so we weren't having houses right next to creeks and we weren't next to a big river. And so we ended up with, nobody losing their housing. We had one house that a tree fell on, but it wasn't occupied at the time. So we had to like re-DIY our roads and bridges and utilities, but we'd done them before, so we did them again. And so that's different than like whole communities being washed away or that kind of thing. So it was more that we were kind of isolated amongst ourselves. And so we were, pooling food and doing community meals. And, we finally got internet access and communicating and things like that. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the main visual legacy for us connected to the hurricane is at the top of the road, not our road, but the county road leading out of Earthaven, that it's still being repaired. And so, it's like a visual reminder of the longer journey of repair for the more vulnerable aspects throughout the mountains, which are, the floodplains and the steep slopes.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I pasted a link to an article that a couple women here wrote about that, if you're curious, in the chat.
Well, I loved hearing, I think it was you, Renali, who said you were maybe coming with a friend that you'd, if you came, and just wanting to celebrate that. It's been a beautiful experience when couples have come or friends. Um, and it has been that people unite in this place that they don't live in the same place from before the retreat, and really leveraging this container for this deepening of a relationship that's beyond this. And so, yes, a lot of participants are keeping in touch and really supporting each other and feeding the fire of their lives um, beyond the retreat, even though they didn't know each other before. But it just really warmed my heart when people are really strategically leveraging and utilizing this space we're holding for people already in their lives. So I'm glad to hear that.
I was just curious to know, back on the retreat, what I signed up for the belonging newsletter, so I've been appreciating receiving that, but I'm wondering if there are other things that we could do to kind of prepare or get ourselves into the right mind space, or if it's just like, hey, show up and we'll work with what you bring, or
Yeah.
I'm sure any and all would matter. What I mean would work, but just curious.
Yes. Well, no one's asked that question before. And so I'm giving you a little sneak peek into once you register. Um, yeah, the belonging, the recipes for remembering how to belong is what Jenna is referring to. And that's a free gift from the Soil and website. That's a e-course that is a set of practices that comes into your inbox. And that is a great start. And so when someone registers, they will get an intro email that's like, sure, yeah, the details of like packing lists and such, but we've really put a lot of effort into the resources. So um, there is no prerequisite to coming. You can sign up, show up, do nothing in between. It's perfect. And I know there's folks that from the time of sign up and from the time of arrival, um, wanting to, yeah, like be in the prayerful place, be in the courtship, be in the conscious approach to this threshold of the retreat. And so we've fed that fire by sharing a number of resources that are like some podcasts, some videos, some articles, some um, like invitations of some nature time, some guided practices of connecting out with the outside world. So I think that's what you're speaking to. And yeah, all that would be what you get to kind of blow the wind in the sail before arrival. Yeah.
When you mentioned a number of different people that this experience is kind of influenced by, and I only got the first two, is it possible, Debbie, maybe you could list them, and maybe we could read something from any one of those people to sort of also inspire us and prepare us and things.
Yeah.
Whatever you think.
I had mentioned Sabamfu, Martine, Joanna Macy, Francis Weller. And those teachers we honor at the end of the belonging gift as well. So really trying to, yeah, point people in directions of where these influences came from. That's a great question. Yeah, and also if you find, I don't know if you're on social media or maybe it's on our website as well, but there's a website that's called like, it's a bookshop where you can buy books and proceeds go back to us in this case, like an organization who has their recommended book lists. And so a little percentage per book you purchase. And so that's a great way to see kind of different authors through category. So grief work, death care, community, communications, permaculture, renewable energy. We kind of have categorized it in there. So that's another great place. And maybe Debbie could add that link as well. Any final questions before we wrap up? And then we'll also put these resources we've put here in the email that goes out. Yeah.
Just a thank you to you all for taking the time to share this with us. I'm looking forward to learning a little bit more about the retreat from I haven't seen there's probably something on the website if we want to sit with that a little bit.
Yes.
That would be great. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you to both of you.
Yeah. I see your hand, Asami. Go ahead.
Hi, NikiAnne. Sorry, I was reading. I don't have a good reception, so I don't have my video on, but great to see you. And I have a question. I am really wanting to come, and I'm wondering if there's going to be some sort of like, at the confession camp, you guys had the I can pick you up with like a meeting. If you're needing a ride, there's like a Google sheet kind of thing. You can just ask for help for that. And if you can offer, you to share a ride or something there's that Google sheet. But do you guys have something like that for this or?
Yeah, what Asami's so we don't what she's referring to is we don't coordinate rides anymore. Like we don't book rides because there's just great people who are doing Uber and ride offerings, shuttle services in the region that people can book independently. We do have what we call a carpool hub, which is a Google Sheet in which you can list a need or an offering on that sheet to try to connect as participants. And if it is someone who has a need and there's not much engagement, we can have Helen, the customer service person, try to make a connection and just trying to eyeball where people are coming from. But yeah, otherwise it would be an independent booking for people.
Oh, okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, and I will say we have I think we have capacity for about 28 people to register, and we're at about 22. So we do anticipate selling out before the registration closes, but we're not full yet. So, but if you are wanting to come, I wouldn't take too long on making your decision.
Okay, good
Yeah.
to know. Good to know. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Great question. Well,
I have a comment.
go for it,
This,
Joyce.
this frightens me. I'm not going to lie to you. It frightens me because, I live in the city. I'm a very controlled person. I run a small business. I'm not that used to certain things, but I'm also stuck in a certain place. The reason why I was attracted to it in the first place is because I believe the ceremony is about kind of getting unstuck. So I'm going to try to overcome my fear and be courageous and show up.
Beautiful. Yeah, my question would be like, what's the risk of not showing up? Because I'm hearing you speak to the fear or the risk of showing up. And so not that you have to answer that to me, but just like as you sit with that, like, yeah, that's been helpful for me to flip it. Like, yeah, what's at stake? And not that this is the only place or tool, obviously, to meet that longing and that need for change. But if it's a good fit, then we're here for that readiness. And totally want to honor like being a rural, quirky village setting in Southern Appalachia is such a stretch for where so many people are coming from. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for speaking to that, what you're working with. Well, how about we just take a moment you can unmute yourself. I just want to say thank you for your time. I'm going to just end the recording here and say that you'll get a follow-up email and we're available for any questions